Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD1111 class for the fall 2020 semester at Rankin, I've been going through a series of video presentations based on the textbook for the class, that book being Get Programming with Node.js by Jonathan Wexler, a Manning publication. I am beginning the third unit of the book, and I am in lesson number 13. We're starting to go in and talk about Mongo databases, and I realized a mistake that I made yesterday, and that is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in edit the system. So all I did was I came in and I clicked in our search bar and I'm typing in edit, and I want the system environment variables. Alright, and what that's going to show me, hopefully, is there we go. That's going to bring this up, and here's our environment variables. Here they all are, and the variable that I'm looking for in here is the path variable, which is right here. So if I click there and I click OK, oh, I thought I could do more than that. Let's see, path, I'm going to click edit, and it's got all of the different variables that are in there. So this is the path the system goes through. So when I put in a file, this is what it'll look for. Now I screwed up in that I put in this yesterday. C:\program files, MongoDB server 4.2 bin MongoDB or MongoD.exe, and it didn't work, and for the life of me I couldn't figure out why. So I'm going to edit, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do it hopefully the right way, and that is that this is case independent, but I'm going to keep them like the other ones. So I'm going to say program files, MongoDB server 4.2 bin, but I do not want to put in the name of the file. That is actually the path right there. Alright, so if I click OK, and I click path again and click edit just to be sure, now it looks to me as though it is okay. So I'm going to say OK, and OK, and OK, and then I'm going to come in and I am going to open up, probably won't matter, but I'm going to try at least to open up a a lot of junk here. I'm going to try to come in and open up a Git Bash window here. Alright, now I had problems when I tried to find the path from here, so I'm going to keep that open, but before I do that, I'm going to come in here. In fact, let's not even do Git Bash. Let's just bring up a DOS window. So I'm going to type CMD in here. Now I'm going to type in path. And you can see how big this is and how ugly all of this is. But somewhere in this mess, there it is, C program files, MongoDB server 4.2 bin. So hopefully now I have put in the right path, so that as I come in here and as the text says, so I've done all this, and now I went and modified the path. Okay, it says, so you've got MongoDB installed on your computer like a web server. It needs to be started. You can start MongoDB by running MongoD in a terminal window. This command assigns MongoDB a port and establishes the location of its databases at data/db. Okay, so let's do both of these. So first, and I'm just going to keep this one open, but I'm going to start up two different things here. So here's CMD, and here is CMD. Now, if this first one works, if I come in here and I type in MongoDB or MongoD at a terminal window like this, so MongoD, and you'll notice, boom, it's going through and it's running. Well, that's good. And I'm going to keep that up and running, and I'm going to bring up the other one here, which, as the book said, you can test whether or not Mongo was installed successfully by typing Mongo in a new terminal window. So here's Mongo, I've got a bunch of stuff, and there I am. So I should be in the shell. As it says here, it's similar to REPL because it isolates the terminal window. All right, it says when you have some data to work on, you can further explore the environment. Well, we can do a couple things. All right, so I'm on the top of page 140, and the question here at the top is, what data structure does MongoDB use to store data? Unlike a relational database management system like MySQL or SQL Server that we used both of those last semester, we're using MongoDB, which is a NoSQL or a non-SQL database, and it uses documents as opposed to, for example, tables. So now that MongoDB is running, it's ready to receive commands to add, view, delete, or otherwise change data. So it's ready to do CRUD. Create, read, update, and delete. Before you connect MongoDB to your application, you can test some commands in the MongoDB shell, which is what we're going to do now. Commands that you run in the MongoDB shell are permanent. So in other words, if I go in and let's just say I create a document and I create a temporary database, if I remove that database, it's gone forever unless I save it someplace else. So if you delete or really update data or an entire database, there's no way of automatically going back. So run Mongo in a new terminal window. I've got that. The program should prompt the shell to start. You'll be greeted by your MongoDB version number, which is, I'm sure, in here someplace. There it is, 4.2.7. Potentially a few warnings, which you can ignore for now, and the familiar greater than sign to indicate the shell is active and ready for commands. MongoDB can store multiple databases. It's a management system for all your application's database. It says to start, the MongoDB shell places you in the test database. We can verify this by just entering DB, and DB shows you where you currently are. So it says I'm in test. So what I am showing down here is exactly the same thing as what the author shows up here. And near the bottom of page 140 in the text. To view all available databases, run show DBs. And it shows that I have these databases right now. So it says with a clean install of MongoDB, your shell's response should look like the next listing. So there's my listing. And there's the books. And you can see they're the same. And it's showing that we have 3 databases. All right. And none of them have anything in there because this is the size. All right. So to the right of the database is the size. Because we haven't stored any data yet, the databases are understandably empty. You can create a new database and simultaneously switch to it by entering use followed by a new database name. Try switching to a new database with a recipe application by coming in here and typing in use recipe _DB. Now don't put any blank spaces in those names. All right, hit enter. Now it says switch to it. Now 2 things. If we run DB right now, it says we're in the recipe database. However, if we come back and we type in show DBs, it's not showing there. And the reason that it's not showing there is because, again, we have not put any data in it. And it's not one of the predefined databases that are created for us. Okay? So, to add data to your database, you need to specify a collection name with which that data is associated. Here, a MongoDB collection, as you can see, represents your data model, which we're going to get into more later in this section and in the next section, or the next unit of the text. All right. It stores all documents related to that model within the same grouping. If you want to create a contact list for the recipe application, for example, create a new collection and add data. Add the data that's shown below. So I'm just literally I'm going to use the insert that they show here. All right. And I'm going to put this in. In fact, I'll even put in exactly what they have here. So db.contacts.insert. All right, name John Wexler, email and finally note. And we end it with all right. So it says write result inserted 1, which means that we have put in one record to our database. At this point, the author says there's no strict collection structure. We can add anything we want. In other words, we have created the equivalent of a table, but we have put no schema with it, so it really has no form, so to speak. All right. Okay, so it wants us to insert another item into the contacts collection with these properties. So let's come back and do the same thing. And now notice it's got everything in here. So in other words, we could put it in just like this too. Let me put me in there. So JP Scott, add Rankin.edu, note, how about this? He tries hard. All right, now it tells me that another one has been added. All right. Oh, I guess I was supposed to put favorite season in there instead of a note. Well, let's put in one more then. I'll put in my wife. And spring is her favorite season. I'll just leave my email in there. She usually uses that anyway, but not my Rankin one. So I'll put that in. Hit edit. All right, we should now have 3 records in there. Okay, Mongo lets you add the seemingly conflicting data elements. Just because Mongo let you store inconsistent data doesn't mean that you should. In Lesson 14, we'll talk about, as it says, how to organize data. To list the contents, you can enter db.context.find, and you should see something that looks kind of like this. Okay, but it'll look pretty ugly. So db.context.find. All right. Now, let's look at what's in common here, and let's look at what's different. You'll notice that all 3 of these have what's called an object ID. And an object ID, at least in many ways, is like a primary key. As mentioned, near the top of page 142 here, the author says, to keep your data organized and unique, MongoDB uses an object ID class to record some meaningful information. So this is a timestamp, all right, right here. And it's got a bunch of information in there, as it says. It's got a timestamp of the record's creation and some information about the database system. The object ID provides many useful methods that we can use and we will use later. All right, so it says here we should try searching and doing a db.context.find, and let's put in this. Hopefully that's going to work, but we'll see. So db.contacts.find. Okay. And that was the first record that I put that in, and notice it comes back with Jonathan Wexler, or John Wexler, exactly as it should. All right. Now, right now, what we're using is, again, it's REPL that we use for Node.js, but it's using REPL, or the equivalent almost of REPL. It's not REPL, but it's sort of the equivalent for MongoDB. As we go on in here, as it says, as you become familiar with MongoDB, you might want a more user-friendly window. So we can come in and we can download Compass. I'm not going to run through those steps, at least not right now. All right? But the steps and what we have to do to go through that is on the bottom of half of page 142. And once you do that, it's going to look a little bit nicer. Okay, it's for lack of better words, it's kind of the GUI-ized version of what we're doing right now. The author says that he recommends we use Compass as a supplemental tool while you work with MongoDB in your application. And that's fine, but I want us to get used to working in the shell here first. All right, so let's look at some of these commands that are here. First one says show collections. And it says contacts. Why contacts? Because that's what we created up here. Contacts.insert. We did that 3 times. All right. So let's see. Find one. All right. db.contacts.find1. And let's use exactly what they show in the book. Name. They use John. Let's try this. Name. I don't know what it'll find, if anything, but we're going to try it anyway. Scott. And it says no, because there's no one with the name Scott in there that it's finding directly. All right. But I think if we go back and we redo this and we put in my name, in fact, let's put in my wife's name, you notice that it finds a record full of information. So it's looking for an exact match on what we're doing in here. I'm not going to delete, but I could run the delete command and I could remove any records that we wanted to. All right. It says here, for more practice, review the command cheat sheet at this address. So let's see if we can go to that address. And you see here Mongo Shell Quick Reference. Command line history, command helpers, JavaScript operations. Here's some command helpers. These are some of the things we've already been looking at. All right, and I'm sure there's another probably better formatted cheat sheet that we'll be able to look at and find someplace else. All right, I'm already up to 20 minutes. I don't have much left in the chapter. I've got 3 pages, but as far as connecting MongoDB to your application, let's go ahead and do that in the next lesson, which will be the last one for this chapter. So I'll be back with that shortly.